My name is Shubhra Sinha. I'm the marketing head at Denave and also your host for this session. So you'll hear a lot from me today. Joining me today at length, we have a very, very distinguished panel. We have with us 3 industry experts who will cast light on the data decay challenges, best way to cross those challenges and maximize the output from data for improved sales prospecting. I have a question from someone asking, will you share the recording with the attendees? Yes, it will land right in your inbox. The webinar is also being live streamed on Denave's Facebook channel, so you will have the content with you. On that note, I would like to welcome Jazz Leong, Head of Integrated Marketing APAC at Microsoft, Jayant Shirsagar, Senior Vice President Marketing at Markets and Markets, and Joy Nandi, Global Head Intelligent Data Services at Denave. A very warm welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just take a few minutes for some quick introduction of our panelists. Jazz leads a very high-performing marketing team at Microsoft, and she's focused on translating global business priorities into broad marketing strategies and plans. Her experience covers cross-discipline in product marketing, segment-focused marketing, insights-driven campaign marketing, channel marketing, digital and inbound marketing, consumer marketing. So it's everything, and extremely impressive. We are so pleased to have you on board with us, Jazz. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you. And hello, everyone.
Over to Jayant. After working for over 25 years in various multinationals like AT&T, Wipro, Intuit, SAP, Jayant has joined Markets and Markets. We'll call it M&M, as Senior Vice President and Head of Marketing in April this year. So at M&M, Jayant's main charter is to help build and scale demand generation engine that can accelerate the company's journey to become the first, world's unicorn in this space. So welcome, Jayant.
Thank you, Shubhra.
Yeah, sorry, but M&M always reminds me of the candies. So what you do is very
interesting.
All right, so Joy, our in-house expert, he leads the charter to scale and grow the intelligent data services and business analytics portfolio for Denave. With over 25 years of experience, Joy has worked in various executive leadership roles across industries. And having a blend of business acumen and technology expertise, his focus is on evaluating and validating market and technology trends, drawing up strategic business growth plans. Thanks, Joy. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Once again, a very warm welcome to our panelists. Couldn't have asked for a better panel today, and yes, I'm a little partial here. Of course, many thanks to our audience for joining in. People are still walking in, but we'll stick to the time. And just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. While we hear our panelists, we also have a Q&A session. So we'll have a dedicated slot where we will allow the participants to ask questions. Just so that we are able to move seamlessly, it would be great if you could type your questions in either on the Q&A section or on the chat button, so that the team can keep collating those questions and address it to our panelists at the right pit stop. Of course, in the designated Q&A section, if you really want to interact with the panelists, there is a hand raise button, and you can use that, and we'll unmute you, and we can have a conversation going on there. All right, so I'm going back to sharing my screen. Just give me a second. Yeah. So without any further ado. I hope my screen is visible. If someone can confirm.
Yes, it is.
Wonderful. So, since this discussion is all about data, I just wanted to start with some data here. And this is just so that we are able to set some context. In a survey done, of course, 94% of global B2B markets speculate that their database is inaccurate or stale, caused by data decay. Customer data that was estimated to decay at a rate of 30 to 40% per year, during pre-COVID times. In some markets with high employee turnover, that data unraveled at a shocking 70% each year. So this was the case for Silicon Valley B2B sector, global SMB sector, and even in startups. So in the current scenario, of course, it's faster. A lot more people have been made redundant. They have taken on additional roles and so on and so forth. Even prior to COVID, approximately 66% people changed jobs every year, 20% company addresses changed, 18% telephone numbers changed. People still change jobs and all of that continues, but contactability, of course, has become a major issue. So employee size and turnover information of large enterprises that can vary quite rapidly, even on regular basis, monthly basis, quarterly basis. As per a certain rule developed by an industry leader, there is a data impact analysis. The cost of preventing bad data from entering a CRM is about $1. The cost of correcting existing problems is $10. Cost of repairing the problem after it has caused a failure is $100. This is called the 1-10-100 rule, and this is startling. I mean, this is actually very, very scary. In 2019, Gartner research found that average cost of poor data quality on businesses amounts to anywhere between $9.7 million to $14.2 million annually. At a macro level, bad data is estimated to cost US more than $3 trillion per year. And of course, how can we forget productivity? In B2B sales, poor data quality is responsible for wasting over 27% of a rep's time. That is 546 hours per year per rep wasted due to poor data quality. So, the reason for sharing, all this information was just so that we understand, what we are talking about today and what are the repercussions of, all of this. So I will first come to Joy. Joy, while I've done some amount of, context setting, if for the benefit of the audience here, could you also throw some more light on what data decay is? Sure.
So data decay essentially is just deterioration of your sales and marketing prospect lists. A lot of companies over multiple years, the larger the company, the greater the size of their database of who their current customers are, prospects are. And increasingly, organizations are becoming very focused on targeted, companies, as well as within that, the key influencers and the decision makers. Having said which, I mean, given the stats that you shared, that, everything happens with a company. So if you don't keep your data refreshed, a decay can happen if your data was, profiled some time back. And from an entity level or a company level, obviously they add businesses, they change addresses, they add branches, they get into new verticals, they expand and grow. So if you're targeting on the basis of a certain size or criteria of an organization or a certain industry vertical, they could have, gone into something new, which you need to keep track of. And at the same time, this is the day and age of M&A and divestiture, right? So companies could even reduce that. So you have to a certain extent, keep track of what's happening to those companies. And if you don't, essentially whatever old data that you had would decay in your CRM and wouldn't be the right for prospecting to your databases. But more than the company, the actual impact is at the contact level, because eventually, sales and marketing is about connecting to the right person, right? Who would listen to your pitch. They have a pain point. You're trying to address it for them. And often enough, organizations, obviously they want to reach out to the business decision maker, or even if you got a technology product, to the technology decision maker. But when you're trying to figure out their pain point, often enough, these decision makers are not the first port of call. There are people who are within their organizations who are influencers, right? So you need to have a constant connect with all of these people. And, you know, in large organizations, it could very well be 30 to 50 people that you need to stay in touch with. Now, given the stats that you shared, you can imagine how many people would have changed their span of control, gone out of the organization, new people have come in. So unless you work on the data maintenance aspects of even data that you've collected, I mean, it's a different matter that you always need new prospects or net new data, but even the data that you have, if you didn't work on, you know, keeping it fresh, there will be that data decay, and which has a significant impact on, you know, time wasted or marketing efforts, the rupees or dollars or Singaporean dollars that you're putting into it, which might go down the drain. Very interestingly, there was just to give you an example of the scale of the problem. There's an enterprise that we connected with, and it's a global enterprise. And in their CRM, they have 120,000 relevant accounts. And of these 120,000, they realized that 64% of that was done or profiled before 2012. So you can imagine the amount of decay that would have happened. They realized it themselves that only 26% of that entire data was even reachable by email, right? And even there, they didn't know, even though the email was had reached, there are sophisticated things that companies do nowadays where they have catch-all servers. So you don't even know whether that person is still in the organization or the span of control has changed. So all of this put together is data decay, which needs to be addressed.
Sure. So I think coming over to Jayant, Jayant, Joy has spoken about some, you know, largely about even the impact that data decay can have on organizations. Do you have anything more to add on to that? You know, what potential damages can it cause?
So I'll add a incremental component, which is it is just not about prospects, new prospects, but it is also about existing customers. And what happens there is that, you know, obviously your customer satisfaction goes for a toss because you're not able to share updates and you're not able to, you know, kind of keep them happy. And the customer escalation, so the support cost also goes up. These customers are unhappy that, you know, you're not shared with them information, updates, etc. real time. The second, now, because we're talking about impact on sales, the opportunity to upsell and cross-sell to these existing customers is lost. So it's not about only new prospects, it's also about existing customers. If I look at new prospects, obviously, as a marketer, we do see that, you know, the marketing conversion drops, and any conversion drop is directly linked to the business impact loss or the potential revenue loss. These are the two big losses, I feel, or big impacts of the data decay.
Yeah, very relevant point, Jayant. Jayant, coming over to you. So, you know, Microsoft probably has one of the largest customer and prospect lists globally. So what's your take? You know, how do marketers like you, how do you deal with not being able to reach the target personas for your various campaigns? And, you know, what about the marketing ROI? How do you keep track of the loss due to bad data?
Yeah, the ability to reach some of our target audience is a real challenge, to be honest, right? Regardless of, I think, the size of the organization, right? Given the diversity of the markets and languages in APAC, right? The problem is actually even more apparent, right? We have different languages, right? Ability to kind of reach some of the audience group may differ across the markets, right? And the tactics that we use will also have to be quite different, right? So what we need to really ensure is to have different types of outreach programs and content to target our customers who are at different part of the buying cycle with us, and try to reach them in different forums, different channels, and leveraging different tactics as well. For instance, we use a variety of tactics like telemarketing, paid media, event sponsorship, and try to reach the audience where they are, and try to engage them with the different type of content that we have. Yeah, one of the key metrics that we have to measure ROI for the campaign is around Contactability Matrix. So in other words, we look at if this is the set of target segments and audience group that they were going after, how well do we reach them at what point in time, right, as part of our measurement, right, of campaign effectiveness. That actually explain, right, the importance of data, right, and how do we outreach to this group of target audience are two of the key ones in terms of how we look at campaign ROI as well as campaign effectiveness. Yeah.
Great. Those are great inputs. I'll just take a little pause over here. I think with respect to context setting in terms of, what data decay is, what it does, how our marketers, dealing with it. I think I'll just pause it here because I want to obviously in the next segment go deeper into data privacy, GDPR, data refresh, depth profiling, a lot more I think that's the meatier information for the audience to have. At this point, I just want to open a poll for the audience, just to get a sense of the kind of participants that we have. So I'll just launch the poll. I hope it is visible to everyone. The question here, for the benefit of anyone who's joined us on Facebook, they won't be able to see the poll. So the question is, do you use any service or technology tools for automatic data refresh or updates to your CRM or prospect database? We'll give it another 30 seconds. It would be great if you guys can participate in the poll so that we get a sense of, the kind of audience who has joined us today. I'll repeat the question once. Do you use any service or technology tools for automatic data refresh or updates to your CRM or prospect database? Great. I think I'll end the poll now. So I've just shared the results. It is quite a mix. About 44% say yes, 56% say no. So do you have anything to add on this result, Joy? Any inference that we are taking back?
So, all the people who said yes, good for them, because they've need to look at the cause that's actually creating the bad data. So if you look at it, every organization, whether small, mid-sized, enterprise, large, they source data from multiple channels, right? They have their own internal engines, inbound, outbound, as well as, there are data service providers like us or other people in the market where you source data from. One of the key issues is that everybody's format or nomenclature, or they even call it taxonomy, is different, right? A company A could be in the same industry vertical, but the name is different. So when you start storing all of that in your CRM, unless you do some kind of standardization of what a person is, which level they are based on their designation and so on and so forth, that leads to some problems. So if there are, from the poll, if there are people who address that, that's great. The other issue that we see, a lot of companies come to us for these data maintenance activities, is that they just have duplicates. Because while you're getting new data, the old data where the person has moved, or it's the same company with a different name or some added features here and there, right? Denave could be a Denave India or a Denave Software India or a Denave India Private Limited. A lot of people don't have sophisticated deduplication engines. And that's the second challenge that you have that leads to data decay. So if you look at tools which are out there, and we're going to talk about that in subsequent sections. The one problem that I see in many organizations is data management is not their core expertise. They're in the business of whatever that organization is, and often enough it's left to the inside sales rep or the marketing department or the research department within that organization to deal with all of this issue, which is not necessarily their core expertise. So they do the good enough job trying to manage the CRM or doing it on Excel, but that's just not physically possible. There's a lot more things that you need to do to keep all of that in check. So We can talk about that based
Sure,
on the poll of people who said that they probably want some more information about it.
Perfect. So now I want to touch upon the the burning issue, data privacy, GDPR. I think we as marketers we kind of get really it's a burning issue, and so between GDPR and enhanced data privacy policies, it's clear that the heyday of endless granular consumer data that is reaching its end. However, while almost every consumer is demanding more privacy, they also believe personalization is, it should be standard when they are being served with information or when they are being shared promotional offers. Now, this has left marketers in a fix because how do they meet customer expectations when they do not have that wealth of, access to data? So, Jazz, question to you here at this point is, data privacy protection, of course, critical aspects needs to be addressed in respect to how contact data is being obtained, how it is being stored. What are the challenges that marketers face because of the current, stringent data privacy laws and protection guidelines?
Yeah, and one of the, I would say that we are really, in Microsoft, we're very conscious of how and where we are collecting personal data. And one of the key things that we have been pretty much in Microsoft, marketers are being trained, as well as our partners that we use actually go through a very stringent data processing and management requirements. So in other words, there are some very strict guidelines that we have provided to the partners that work with us, right, to ensure that we as an organization and our partners actually comply with the data protection and privacy policies. All our partners, as well as our internal employees, are all trained and enabled on the Microsoft data processing and management guidelines. And we actually have this program, right, to kind of reinforce it on a very regular basis. So we also ensure that opt-in consent is obtained in every of our lead gen campaigns that we run, regardless of where the campaign is run, the countries run, or the audiences as well, right? So in other words, while it is challenging in terms of collecting those data given the privacy law, but we are also very strict to ensure that we adhere to the policies of data protection and privacy. Yeah.
Right. Thanks for that, Jazz. Jayant, I will now be, coming over to you. So talking about, intelligent data that most organizations need, there's more to it than just contact information. There is, there are details about the organization, technographic, what kind of technology they use, their demographic information, industry trends, patterns. So, in your experience, do a lot of companies manage to provide such depth of information, especially in APAC? I'm sure as a marketer, you must be dealing with a lot of entities. So what's been your experience?
Yeah, so as global head of marketing, we're dealing with almost all the regions now: North America, Europe, APAC, Middle East, and Africa. I think whatever information is available, whatever little information is available, it's available for mature markets like North America. Very little for Europe because of stringent GDPR, norms now, and very little or no tools available for markets like Asia. So there are tools available, but they don't have rich databases available with them, in Asia. Okay, and there are probably, I think, two reasons for that. The first reason is, unlike for listed companies who are mandated to publish their financials, there is no mandatory norm for non-listed or unlisted companies to publish the financials. If I look at beyond contact details, the first information that a B2B2 marketer would need is that of the financials, so that I can segment the account, according to the size of the organization. So that's, I think, one reason. The second reason is most of the service providers do not have a robust technology solution or a platform to back them up in this data collection. Gone are the days of when you could collect this data manually and update it. The number of organizations and the sheer size and the number of buying centers within these organizations, it's mammoth, it's huge. It's humanly impossible to update it or keep it refreshed manually. So which means you need technology solutions, and not many have these kind of robust technology solutions. And that's where probably I think if you look at beyond contact details, if you look at the platform like knowledge store by markets and markets, they come handy. Okay, so here is where you can find out more about your customers, your customers' customers, your customers' ecosystems, your customers' ecosystems, the interconnect between between these ecosystems, the new age growth opportunities, and how they are changing, and what does it mean for you and your customers. So this is very valuable information that can be used in account-based marketing beyond just contact information. So I think we should look at it as holistic, because ultimately the goal is business impact, pipeline creation, pipeline conversion. That's the impact, right? So it is contact list plus some intelligent information on your customer's profile, their business, and factors that are impacting their business. So we should look at it in totality. That's my point.
On that note, my next question is for Joy. But before I get there, just after this, we will, have a little pit stop of Q&A. So to the audience, if you have any questions, just type it in the window so that we can just collate the questions and we'll take it up right after this. Now, Joy, Denave is a intelligent, sales intelligence data provider focused in the APAC region. Now, what's your view on various APAC data sources available in the market? Again, with respect to their coverage and accuracy, like that being prime. And why do you think there is this extreme challenge of being able to aggregate and synthesize accurate data?
So I think Jazz and Jan started on that issue. If you look at the developed markets, a lot of the information is on public sources, and even the data aggregators or the data synthesizers, whether they're synthesizing contact data or intelligence on that platform, they use a lot of technology tools. They're machine learning, AI based, which crawl the internet, synthesize the data, and then kind of create some kind of knowledge base about the companies. When you come to APAC, there are multiple reasons. First and foremost is the regional languages, right? If you look at the diversity of Asia, not everybody is on an English-speaking platform. They might still be on a public source, but not on an English-speaking platform. And most developed technologies work mostly on the English-speaking platform. Of course, there are translators, but that synthesis of that data is still not there. And it's not even, a focus area from any one of the large organizations. The other aspect is, and let me, all of us know, LinkedIn is one of the biggest repositories of professional marketers and networkers. And it's a brilliant, there's nothing else like it in the world. But when it comes to APAC, the representation of companies and contacts within the companies is limited. You take Vietnam, only 30% of the whole organization, the whole country is on LinkedIn, let alone the contacts. I take Denave ourselves. We are in the business of sales and marketing, right? And therefore, it would make sense that our information is updated. LinkedIn, as of this morning, states that we have 1,641 employees. In reality, as you know, we have 3,000 plus employees, right? So if I wanted to look at self-curated platforms, often enough, the decision makers won't be there. So it's not just one source. So in APAC, unless you have a combination of technology, which does whatever information that you have on the public sources, and you synthesize that, and a combination of being able to reach out directly to prospects, through some channel or the other. And if it's your business, you need a combination of that desk research, the tele research, and the technology tools together. And that's the only way you can be, can become better in the APAC regions. And thankfully, we've started, many of these things for the 20 odd years that we've been in this market, and that helps us. The other aspect is, there's a very large mid-market and SMB segment. Of course, that's of interest to every organization, but the whole nature of that mid-market and SMB segment is that it moves really fast. The companies which are coming into birth and companies which are dying, changes that are happening in that particular segment, I would just say this, there are curated directory lists which do SMB information, but that's again self-serve, right? It's something that people have put their information on because when they came into existence, they wanted to promote themselves. But if I had to validate that today, I need to probably know who is paying taxes today, right? Corporate taxes. And if you didn't have those combination of things, it's very difficult to figure out, which company is actually in existence and who are the relevant contacts. So those are part and parcel of the challenges in APAC.
Great. So thanks for that, Joy. I think we'll just, there are some very interesting questions that are coming up, and I'll just move to those questions. In fact, we have somebody asking for the qualities Denave is looking for hiring a fresher B school grad. So send us your CV. We'll definitely look at the fitment. Of course, now moving to, okay, so we have, sorry, the name's not coming through, but the question is, suppose I have a startup and mine is an agri-tech product-based domain. What should be my strategy to create a data pipeline for my future operations? Just a gist, what should the structure be that will help me in GTM? Jayant, do you want to pick that up?
Know a little bit more about the startup. This is agri-tech.
Agri-tech. Yeah, agri-tech.
And is it so do I assume that this is a B2C kind of an offering? Can we have that clarified? Is that it is a B2C, is it marketing to the farmers or?
Sure, let me send that question across. I can't see the attendee name here, so I can't ask.
Okay, so let me make that assumption and answer. Okay, so if it is agri-tech and if the target audience is farmers, then I would say obviously first we need to know the choice of the right platform. In this case, none of the social media platforms may be of use. LinkedIn, etc. are a remote possibility. So the most convenient platform would be SMS or WhatsApp. Okay, these are the two that come to my mind. Now, WhatsApp has started B2B marketing. I'm not sure if they have farmers database with them, but that is one platform that can be used. The second platform is SMS. And telcos, do provide, some solutions like that. There are companies like Intuit who had products like TextWeb, which is essentially, TextWeb and Fussel, I think is the name of the offering. So similar platforms which are targeted at farmers in the rural sector that can be used. Okay, so again, India, the data privacy bill is yet to be passed. And even if it gets passed, I think probably largely it will start with the corporate and the B2B side first. So there is still some time where you can take advantage of these existing platforms in the market. Does it answer?
Yeah, actually, the person has replied. So they've sent two responses. They've said B2B and they've also written B2C. So I'm confused which one to pick and which one was the error. So I hope the answer has been, they've got their answer. I'll move to the next question. This is from Saurabh Saxena. It says, LinkedIn does tell a lot about people who have moved out or have got promoted. Is there a tool which can integrate with Salesforce and trigger notification? So anyone who wants to pick that up?
Let me take a stab at that. Yes, there are tools which can actually integrate with your CRM, or you can get alert notifications of certain contacts if there's a move that's happening or if there's a replacement that's happening. So the simple answer is yes, there are many providers who can do that. Of course, in the APAC region, there are limited number of players who have enough information about tracking movements of people in itself. So that's something that whoever asked this question needs to check on different service providers on whether they're able to help it on a project basis or an ongoing basis.
Sure. Thanks, Joy. Yes, there are plenty of questions that we are yet to answer, but I'll just move to the next segment and the next set of conversation, and we'll pick them up in the next Q&A round. Jazz, so the question here is again for you. Data maintenance and data refresh services, they can be a non-core expertise for an organization. And so what solutions has your organization deployed, or of other service professionals or vendors for ensuring data hygiene? Do you feel that Microsoft has solved the problem?
Well, I would say that I think this is quite difficult to solve a data hygiene issue, right? As Joy mentioned earlier, right? Data come from different sources and get integrated into the CRM system. And in APAC, right, languages is definitely, the diversity of the languages is definitely also one of the challenges that we have, right? It has to be an ongoing maintenance process, and the need to keep data clean and ensure that we have marketing program that continuously engage and clean the data as part of the process. This is important, right? One of the example of such is to ensure that after we acquire the right context, we also have a robust nurturing program, right, that leverage on some of the AI and machine learning algorithms that we have built in Microsoft to continue to nurture those contexts and augment and clean these contexts as part of the nurturing process. Yeah, we also work with our data acquisition partners, right, to continue to renew and enrich the data as we go, right? So I think this has to be an ongoing maintenance process that is being built in as part of the marketing outreach programs that we have run. Yeah.
And of course, having spent so many years in the industry and after, I think, zillions of marketing campaigns and programs, and also being a part of a company now that provides accurate insights about markets and revenue impact changes, what solutions have you come across that gets the basics right? That is about keeping data refreshed at the entity level and keeping track of the influencers and decision makers as well.
Yeah. So I think, as Joy said, nothing is better than LinkedIn, LinkedIn Sales Navigator to start with. I think there are many other tools for data enrichment, the likes of Zoom Info, Lucia. Then there are some AI-based tools like Seamless AI, Rocket Reach, etc. But I will go on refer to the point Jazz mentioned just now. I think your own nurture program is the best solution. Okay, and I'm witnessing that in the current organization at Markets and Markets. Okay, our own we have a very well thought through and structured nurture program, not just for our prospects but also for our existing customers. So without spamming them, I have identified touch points and a year-long engagement which is meaningful, would add value and resonate and with the target audience. Now that keeps us actually that keeps our database refreshed real time. And the content, so I'm lucky that we have very, very valuable content that comes from knowledge store, which not all organizations may have. But yeah, that's what is the trick for us. That's doing the trick for us.
Right. So I think clearly the vote is going for having a very robust internal nurture program, and cannot really depend too much right now on one provider as such. So Joy, again, as part of Denave, and your own focus area is providing these as services in terms of data maintenance, data validation, enrichment, data profiling. So can you explain when each of these actually are applicable? If there is, how do they become relevant, each of these aspects of data, and overall, what do organizations need to do? Is there anything beyond a nurture program that they need to do to keep data decay away and at bay?
Right. So let me just start with data maintenance as a part of data hygiene that Jazz mentioned. The first is, if you manage to, despite the numerous sources of data that you might have on how old that data is or new data that you're acquiring, if you manage to standardize it across, right? It could be number formats, designation, job levels, verticals based on your taxonomy. Not everybody has these tools, but We, for example, have built it on our own because we are a service provider in this particular space and we've been doing it for a while. And we often do it on behalf of our clients. So clients come to us saying, I've got a very large repository, standardize and help us clean this and maintain this. And we also do this on an ongoing basis for them, as a service. Now, data validation is one step further where, to save money on emails not reaching to the right prospects or mobile numbers where you shouldn't have contacted them because they're on a do not call registry, or you don't have the opt-in and the consent like Jasmine was mentioning. So you need a lot of tools which very fast at a very low cost can do bulk verification of emails, right? Is it even deliverable? Has the company deployed certain spam filters which might have a domain reputation impact on you? If you had this foreknowledge before you even started every single campaign of outreach, that would help. On the numbers, whether it's a direct dial number or a mobile number and so on and so forth, you must absolutely always do a DNC check. Are they on the do not call registry of a particular organization? Otherwise, you will land up in problems. So these are things that can be done. Again, we've automated all of that to check that. A lot of time, companies just come to us and say, do data validation on just entity details, refresh that, update it with the latest values on their size, turnover, verticals, all of that. And an RPC check, which is the right person contact. Do I have the right decision makers and the influencers, or has there been a change? That's all data validation. The third one is data enrichment, right? Which is where I have some amount of information. In the past, I've contacted, X number of people, but now I need to contact other departments, other levels, right? So enrich with more contacts, enrich with, in the WFH climate, almost every company was unreachable or is unreachable on the borderlines because they're working out of home. So appending mobile numbers to the contacts is also an enrichment activities. Many times, even through your, however good your inbound, say web forms are, often enough, the full data is not there. So you have partial data that you need to do. And finally, there's obviously data profiling where it starts at the basic level in terms of the contact and the entity, but at the advanced level, like Jayant was mentioning, you can get a lot of information about the technographics, the firmographics, the financials, the demographics. And at the end, even to the point that you can synthesize market signals and buyer intent on whether they'll have the propensity to buy a certain service or product that you're interested in. So these are all things that we've built. You need very sophisticated, artificial intelligence and machine learning tools to do this, fuzzy logic of deduplication and matching. You need to be able to figure out whether companies have got these catch-all servers on the email validation, ability to look up, DNC lists on the fly as soon as you upload a number of mobile, and whether it's ringing, whether the person is there. And of course, the most critical aspect is getting the intent right. Do you have the right market signals of the company? And that you can only verify when you call onto a company, and wherever you source that intelligence from, you'll get to know whether I have the right band information or the market signal. So these are all things that we provide, but those are definitely areas that every organization, big or small, needs to look at to be really successful in their marketing dollars turning into a real lead and an opportunity, which is why we're having all of these conversations to make that pipeline better.
That's great information, Joy. And actually, I'm getting excited looking at the Q&A section. I think there's some very, very relevant and great questions coming up here, which we'll take just in a while. Before we do that, I'll just run a quick poll. I think Joy has spoken at length about the different data profiling and enrichment validation services, and just wanted to get a sense again from the audience. So to the audience here, would you like someone from Denave to reach out to you to discuss solutions from data maintenance, refresh, enrichment, or profiling? It's a simple yes or a no. just let us know so that our executive or representative can get in touch with you and understand your requirements. Just to repeat, would you like someone from our team, from Denave, to reach out to you to discuss solutions for data maintenance, refresh, enrichment, or profiling? All right, I'll just give it another 4 or 5 seconds. All right. I'm so tempted to do like a countdown, but I'll stop myself here. Okay, so I'm closing the poll now. Thanks for casting your vote. All right. Just 1 second, I'll close it out. Okay. Now, the interesting section, we'll now move to the audience Q&A, and I'll pick up questions. I'll try and pick up as many. So let's take one from Abhijit Kashyap. He sent out an interesting quote saying, give someone a fish and you feed them only for that meal, whereas teach them to fish and you have fed them for a lifetime. So going by that, instead of investing in data decay and refresh tools over the long term, what kind of training programs are available in the market to train people on how to avoid data decay and keep it current from time to time, and thus, have better ROI? Are there any such training programs available? Anyone wants to pick that up?
So one is, I'll take a stab at it. Of course, if an organization can learn to fish in an area which is not their core expertise, definitely go and build all of these engines. The challenge is that it's not just about training. Of course, there's a process element. You need to do certain things right at the time, like Jayant and Jazz mentioned. Of course, have a great nurture program, have the right contact, keep, stay in constant touch, but don't make it spammy so that, they're constantly bombarded with information. That's one way of, and that's just a process related issue. But at the end of the day, if you have a lot of data, you definitely need technology help. If you can develop it yourself, synthesize that. I don't know if there are training programs because this is core IP that people develop and you're in business for that. So, but it can be, it's a process step can be very well explained. I mean, we can definitely have a call later on with the person who put this question up and just tell them what they should try and attempt to do themselves, even if it is just simple, standardization of data and duplication and data refresh. If they can manage to do it on their own, once they get the information on how to do it, and great, otherwise we can help.
So, thanks, Joy, for picking that one up, tricky one. So, all right, we have a question from Vineet Kumar. The question is, data decay is gaining high prominence for the cost of reaching the right audience. Looking at B2G, business to government, being an extension of B2B, what would be your suggestions on an optimized tool configuration and maintenance? Any best practices and use case? Joy, eyes on you.
All right. Okay. The interesting thing, and this is just from my own experience of working with the government, B2G, the good thing is they have the lowest data decay rate. People stay on in certain jobs and roles in the government, in the administration for a very long time, right? And it's one of the most secure jobs. Of course, portfolios change at both the ministerial level and at the ministry level, whether you're from the administrative cadre. But, very interestingly, for the government, often enough reaching the right stakeholders, even if you had the ministers and the administrators all reached out, and this is just from personal experience, the way to reach that person is through the PA, right, rather than them directly. And so you need that information of saying who's got what busy calendar and can you get on the calendar of the PA. So yes, it is similar in many ways, B2B versus B2G, but the process in which you engage is a very bottoms-up approach, unless, of course, you have political connections and you can do a top-down and, get to that department yourself. But if you had a program or a product or a service which is targeted toward the governments, I would encourage that there's a lot more mapping of that entire department which is done, so that you know who the influencers are to be able to address the right person or the right stakeholder that you're trying to get audience with. And definitely get into government forums. There are a lot of think tank forums as a part of the government in the specific area of your business. Do all of that, and that might be more relevant than just creating a database and trying to send emails to them. Often enough, a lot of the administration and the ministers don't read the emails themselves. They have somebody scanning all the emails, right? So regular EDMs and outreach doesn't work out in the B2B segment. I mean, in the B2G segment, as similar to the B2B segment.
Right. So we have a question from Shubham asking what prerequisites should be considered before shortlisting a vendor or a platform for services like data profiling and maintenance. Jayant, Jazz, yeah.
I can take that. I think most important thing is how is the partner that you are looking at, how are they handling data, right? Their experience, their proven track records, as well as the people that whether they are trained on the data protection and privacy policies and in that markets as well, right? Because sometimes there is differences, especially across region, right? The GDPR policies and laws are quite different in the Europe compared to in APAC. So you need to make sure that you have the right partners that has been trained on that as well. So yeah.
Okay, next is from Smriti Kumar. She's asking, how do we do data mining? What are the different ways to do that? I need a few tips. Jayant, do you want to take that up?
Yeah, so I think it starts with the, identifying your target segment, and the more slicing and dicing you do on the data, on the target audience, that's better. So you know the financials, you know the size of the organization, you know the employees, number of employees working for that organization, industry, vertical, sub vertical. You first slice and dice accurately so that you get to the right organizations. Okay. Next is, as Ajoy said, you can then now start getting into firmographics of the company. Okay. And my favorite is financials, because I know what am I selling, what is the value prop, and what are the commercials involved. So I need to know whether, if I have to go back to the basic band criteria, budget, authority, need, timeline, I need to know first the organization's capability or the budget, and would they be willing to kind of put that money on the table, or would they have that financial muscle? Okay, so I think that's why I start with financials. Then I think the key is finding out early adopters or the low-hanging fruit, the propensity, the intent. That's the next one, and it's a combination of multiple things. It's your judgment from the business that you do. It's also technology and tools, and some signals that you can get from various other parameters. And then you have the usual tools to do the data mining. But once you are clear on this, then the usual data mining tools come handy.
Sure.
Does that answer?
I hope so. For me, it does. I hope. Okay, we have a very interesting question here. A lot of technical buzzwords like AI, ML, they're being used, and everyone claims to be deploying it. Now, how does one assess the level of expertise required and the capability of the tool or service provider in that regard?
Yeah, I do a simple thing. I ask for, if anybody approaches me, I ask for a sample data or a free trial. So as we speak right now, a service provider approached us last week, and I just told him to give a free trial to about 20 of the sales guys. They're going to try it out for 3 days on their prospect base and come back to me with an assessment whether how good or bad is that tool. So things like this can be done to check the accuracy of the platform or the technology solution.
I think Jazz, do you have anything to add? Jazz, Joy, everyone went unmuted themselves.
Yes. So I think there is a few parts, right? There is a part of whether you're looking at buying some of this off-the-shelf AI machine learning, working with some of these vendors and leverage that. The good thing is it's extremely convenient, right? So to do that, and of course, there's always that part where you want to evaluate how relevant is the capabilities to support the needs of your organization, right? That's one part of that. The other part is, right, there is also an opportunity if you have a large enough data pool, right, or data sources that you have, right, you can actually build your own model, right? So around that, because the most important and most differentiated data is when you're augmenting your own data, right, with some of this third-party data, right, that will probably build the most powerful and most relevant for your organization. So I think there is two parts to the question. One is definitely off the shelf, and the other part is when you are evaluating vendors that has the AI machine learning capability to build some of these model that you're looking at, right? It's important to also look at the AI and machine learning policies, data privacy policies of the organizations to ensure that any AI use cases that are being put up there, right, they adhere very strongly to some of these privacy guidelines as well. Yeah.
Joy,
Let me just,
I think this is a very fitting last question to take also. So, I think this is summing up the conversation really well. So Joy, your points here.
Yeah, so, we've been in this space for a while, and it's a very tricky question. Of course, at the end of the day, it's about, show me the sample and the outcome, right? So give me the accuracy on whichever data you're working on. But the AI ML capabilities, firstly, AI and ML is not applicable everywhere, right? So it's a misnomer that a lot of people use it as a buzzword that we've got AI and ML. You don't need it everywhere. Machine learning is not needed for doing just basic checks. I mean, of course, it's needed for other things. But if I were to answer the question in the context, the way to test how good a team is to really have the relevant conversation. One is on the outcome, and the other one is asking very probing question and saying, my context is different. My data is different to whatever model you've built, whatever training data that you've used for your output. Can I give you my data and show me the accuracy on the basis of that? One of the follies that people make is that in saying that you give me a sample data, right? I will always give you the best sample data and say, here's my accuracy. This is what was the input, here was the output. So the smarter thing to do would be in the context of AI and ML, in the context of using it for data decay or refresh or synthesis, is saying, here's the sample of my data. Let's see what you can do. And I can get into further details on specific aspects of when AI and ML is used, if someone is interested. But yes, while it's becoming a buzzword in the industry, everybody claims to do AI and ML. It's not relevant everywhere. So do use it and talk to people who eventually make sense. You shouldn't be using AI, ML and saying technology and therefore the cost of doing all of that. It has to be very practical solutions to the challenges that you have from a data refresh, targeted contacts that you're getting to, validating that information. And at the end of the day, like I think Jayant was also mentioning, if you can manage to get that band criteria information, sometimes it's much more than the data. It's being also figuring out that are you making the right calls, right? So if your own engine can do it, great, or get in touch with an organization or an engine who can help you with qualifying the data, the prospect as per your requirement, and then even validating it. We as a business in Denave do that, as a living in our sales and marketing enablement. So again, I'm sure beyond the AI and ML, if it's the business outcome, we can definitely help that.
And yes, I
think I have a comment that can sum up the conversation, which is it's not man alone or the machine alone. It's a combination of man and machine that can do the trick.
Wow, I think couldn't have been a better wrap to the discussion. So since we just hit the time, I do not want to, it wouldn't be right to be extending this conversation. Of course, there are a few questions that have remained unanswered, but I think those have been addressed in ways through the conversation. So please do access the recording. It will land into your inbox. Thanks a ton to the other esteemed panelists. Thanks, Jayant, Jazz, Joy, like I said, the 3 Js. Thanks for joining in. I think this was very, very insightful. As a marketer myself, I am taking back a wealth of information. So, bad data, yes, it sneaks into processes, it sucks out profits in many ways. And the longer you wait to improve your data management, the messier it's going to become. So the point that I think we are taking back is act on it now. Whatever internal process hygiene work has to be done, do that now. Whatever support you require outside the company or through vendors and platforms, do that now. But don't wait on it. And the good news is that with the correct and timely measures, data decay is surmountable. So there is a lot more that you can get out of it. To our audience, thank you a lot. Thank you so much for joining us. I know Thursday morning and afternoon in some markets, it's very difficult to pull out time, but we saw great participation today. So thank you for being an engaged audience. We've been looking through the questions, and hopefully most of them have been answered. Like I said, recording link will land into your inbox. However, if you want it sooner, the webinar was also live streamed on our Facebook page, so you can access it there. It will also land onto our YouTube channel. With that, I wish you luck with your plan. Stay well, stay safe, and resolve your data issues in 2021. So thank you, everyone. Thanks, Jazz.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Shubhra, for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, Jazz. Bye, Jai.